Shane Bybee with Bybee College Prep here. Hope you find today's video helpful. If you do, take a second to like our Facebook page. And if you have any questions, please leave us a message so we can get back to you and we can help you improve your score on the SAT. Shane Bybee here with Bybee College Prep. Today, I want to help you with those tougher reading passages that are on the SAT. The SAT is guaranteed to have a historical and a fiction piece, and a lot of times those pieces can be 100, maybe 200 years old. Students will see them, and they'll think they have difficulty with the language and the way the sentences are structured, with the length of the passages themselves. But what I want to show you is that if you'll focus on what you do know, rather than worrying about what you don't know, you can tackle those passages and have a lot of success answering those questions. This passage is an example of the type of passage students will have a lot of difficulty with. It is a passage from Practice Test 3 on the SAT, the official Practice Test 3 from College Board. You can find your copy of it either from khanacademy.org, where you can download your copy of complete tests, or you can purchase a copy of the Blue Book and get a copy of it there. This passage, when students first read it, they notice some things. They don't worry so much about who Saki is or the fact that it's coming from a short story, which you can tell by the quotation marks around the title of the work. What starts to worry students is when they see that it was originally published in 1911. They see that the passage is over 100 years old, and they immediately recognize, because they've read in their English classes other older pieces, that the diction and the syntax in this piece may start to be a little more difficult. Then they start to read the piece, and they see Lady Carlotta stepped out to a platform of the small wayside station and took a turn or two up and down. It's an interesting length, and clearly the diction and the syntax starts to sink in. They read on and they find out that certain of her acquaintances were wont to give her plentiful admonition as to the undesirability of interfering on behalf of a distressed animal, such interference being none of her business. And they start to worry. There's a lot of words that they're not certain about as they go through that. Admonition, acquaintances, want. They're not certain that what those words are going to mean, and so they start to be concerned. That's going the wrong direction, because there's plenty in that passage that you do know what it means, and you can take away from it. You don't have to dive into these passages to the degree that you're going to be ready to discuss them in your English class on Monday morning. What you need to do is ask the passage questions. Ask questions, 2 questions in particular. First question you're going to ask is, what do I know? As I read this passage, what can I tell? Because you can read this passage and you see that she saw a horse struggling with a more than ample load. You see a horse that's having problems. You also find she sees a carter of the sort that seems to bear a sullen hatred against the animal that helps him to earn a living. And so they have this relationship between a horse struggling and the owner of the horse who's very angry with the horse. That's easy to pick up. Take that away. If you take that away from the passage, you're well on your way to understanding what's going on. As far as plentiful admonition, that part may be difficult, but interfering on behalf of a distressed animal being none of her business, you can tell that she's been told, don't get involved with things like this. That next sentence, that she had once put the doctrine of non-interference into practice, with one of its most eloquent exponents, had been besieged for nearly 3 hours in a small and extremely uncomfortable May tree by an angry boar pig. You can start to pick that piece apart and say, okay, a friend of hers is stuck in a tree by a pig, and Carlotta has put the doctrine into practice. So she is not getting involved. In fact, the sentence goes on to say that Lady Carlotta, on the other side of the fence, had proceeded with the watercolor sketch she was engaged on and refused to interfere between the boar and his prisoner. If you can pick apart from that while this person is stuck up in the tree, Lady Carlotta goes on the other side of the fence to paint a watercolor picture, refusing to get involved like that person told her, you have an idea of what's going on. So the first thing you're going to do is focus on what you do know. The second thing you want to do is answer a really simple question. What does this mean? What does this mean in 4 to 6 words of your own? Put them in the margin of the passage. You have to practice doing that away from the passage on the SAT. Slowing down to write and annotate like that in a particular passage during the test can be difficult because you're up against time and you have time limits. But if you'll start making the habit of asking yourself those two questions, what do I know and what does this mean? In your own words, you can start to put together the answers you're going to need when it comes time to answer the questions. Like everything else when it comes to preparing for the SAT, this is only going to work if you take time to practice. The great news is you got the perfect opportunity to practice in your English class. You're going to read difficult texts like The Scarlet Letter or The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And those are going to be texts where you're going to see paragraphs that start at the bottom of one page, go all of another page, and then end at the top of a third page. Those paragraphs are difficult, and you have to start annotating to understand. When you see those paragraphs, get in a habit of reading with a pencil in your hand, and when you see that paragraph, ask yourself, what do I know, and what does it mean? It's the same skill that you tackle whenever you read a play by Shakespeare, or you start to read a document from history that you don't quite understand. If you'll start to practice those, when it comes time to take the SAT, you'll be ready for that test as well. I hope you found this information valuable. I hope you'll put it into practice. And please take a second to like our Facebook page. If you have any questions about this video or about other things you would like to see us do, please let us know. We're always looking for ideas and we're always ready to help. Stay in touch and we'll check back with you soon.